Afternoon. Today is November 2017, and this is a Miami cemetery. And right here at my right hand are buried my mom and my dad. And today would have been my father's 111th birthday. He was born November 13, 1906, in the great city of New York. Uh, Decades and decades ago, and led a very, very colorful life, and eventually met my mom, a Danish citizen, in the city of Sao Paulo, Brazil. My mom and her family had immigrated from Brazil in the 1930s after my grandfather on my mother's side, their investments in the stock market went belly up after the Wall Street crash, and also my grandfather, Carl Christian Olsen, on my mother's side, was a horse breeder and was a personal friend of Prince Carl Christian, who later became King Christian X. And of course, my grandfather's name was Carl Christian as well. And would you know it, when my mother turned 4, King Christian X in 1920 came by and visited my grandfather's horse breeding farm and gave my then 4-year-old mom a horseback ride. And that endeared us to His Majesty the King ever since. And of course, my mother, as will be testified here on this plaque, she was born April 20, and she died April 20, 1916, and she died April 18, 2002. My dad died July 3rd, 1981. And it's interesting that His Majesty the King, King Christian X, died on my mom's 31st birthday, April 20, 1947, while we were all in Brazil. My mom and dad met in Sao Paulo, Brazil. My mom, a Danish citizen who immigrated to Brazil in the 1930s with her whole family, her one brother and 2 sisters, and met my dad, an American, in Sao Paulo, and they dated, and then they married in 1941, and I came along 9 months later and was born March 6, 1942 in Porto Alegre. And would you know it, yesterday was, let's see if I can get some more sun here, some more light. Yesterday, the light's gone. Yesterday was Veterans Day, and the day before that was the birthday of the United States Marine Corps. U.S. Marine Corps celebrated its 242nd birthday on the 10th of November. And of course, King Arthur, he died in the year 542, and I was born in 1942, and so it's all very interesting. And Charlemagne was born in 742, and the city of my birth, unofficially, was started in 1742. That's the city of Porto Alegre, Rio Grande do Sul, the southernmost state in Brazil, where Gisele Bündchen was born. So Gisele Bündchen and I are both gauchos. I'm a gaucho, and she is a gaucha. And I keep insisting to my friends that all the good fortune that Tom Brady has with the New England Patriots is due to having married a gaucha for a wife. Anyway, hello to you, Giselle, from one gaucho to another. So here are my parents. They're buried here in the cemetery in Miami. And I come here often, especially on their birthdays, to put flowers, fresh flowers on their graves. And now let me see if I can turn this thing around. Perhaps not. Anyway, a lot of things have happened. My father, he was a patriotic, a Republican. He and my mom met Ronald Reagan back in 1979 during a GOP fundraiser, and I've showed you a picture of that in my Twitter account, Arcturus Rex, which means King Arthur in Latin. Arcturus, by the way, is a star that is 300 light years away from Earth, and would you know it, I was born on 3/6, March 6, and Arcturus is 36 light years away. And what else? When I joined the Marine Corps in 1965, keep in mind, King Arthur was born in 465 and he died in 542. I joined the Marine Corps in 1965 and I graduated from Parris Island in December 22nd, 1965. And King Arthur was born in 465 and he died in 542. There's a great, beautiful legend about King Arthur fighting a giant in hand-to-hand combat, single combat, and Our Lady helping King Arthur by allowing the ermine that she had around her fall down, and then the light struck the giant in the eyes. This giant was about to kill King Arthur. He had suffered so many blows, but then, of course, the Virgin Mary saved King Arthur, and that was on an island in Paris. Yes, a Paris island. And later on, legend says that Notre Dame de Paris came about. King Arthur had something to do with the founding of the Cathedral of Notre Dame de Paris in gratitude for the Virgin's help in his great battle with the giant. And that's a legend that's been, sung by the troubadours from Breton for centuries. And so it's very interesting that this Arthur Denchfield, went to Parris Island for my training with the Marine Corps. And what platoon did they assign me to? Keep in mind that at that time, my family and I, we lived at 3601 Durango Street, Coral Gables. 3601. And I'm son number 1, born in 3601 Durango Street from 1959 to the year 2000. And would you know it, the United States Marine Corps in 1965, when I went to Parris Island for initial training and all that, assigned me to platoon 3006. 3006. And several decades later, a New Yorker came along and took the American political imagination by storm, and he became president of these United States of America. And his name is Donald John Trump. And wouldn't you know it, he got 306 electoral votes, at least in the beginning. For the first week, that's what the networks were saying. And then, of course, when George Soros and his friends got in touch with a couple of electors and paid him some money, apparently, a couple backed out. And so the total in the end was 304. But in the beginning, the number that God put on there, because I'm just an instrument of the Lord, was 306 electoral votes. And so on it goes. It's just extraordinary, the coincidences that are taking place. And as I said before, 2 days ago was the 242nd birthday of the United States Marine Corps. I was born in 1942. Arthur's Town in the Bermuda Triangle, the area code there is 242. And there are a number of, and Charlemagne was born in 742. And the great Alexander Nevsky of Russia on April 5, 1242, defeated the Teutonic Knights in the Battle of the Ice. That was April 5, 1242. And would you know it, on April 5, 1942, I was baptized. I was baptized in the Cathedral of Our Lady, Mother of God in Porto Alegre. And so I have something in common with Russia. I have something in common with Alexander Nevsky. I mean, his great victory was on April 5, 1242. Я немного говорю по-русски. Я понимаю по-русски. I only understand a little Russian. I wish I spoke it fluently. It's a beautiful language, and it's a language that many people should know by heart, as well as the Chinese language, which I think is one of the most beautiful languages in the world. Chinese and Swedish, in my opinion. Swedish. And Hvordan står det till? That's how are you in Sweden. And of course, I speak fluent Danish. My mother was Danish, and my brother Carl Christian, my brother, his name is Carl Christian, and I, Arthur Layton Denchfield III, we went to a private boarding school in Denmark for 3.5 years when we were teenagers. And so we learned Danish and German and some Swedish. And we learned how to think, not like Americans, but like Europeans. It came from South America to Europe. It's a little different. And anyway, this is my dad's 111th birthday. And our youngest brother, who's no longer with us, Robert Stewart Denchfield, he was born 1/11/50. He was born on the 11th of January 1950, and so these digits 111 remind me of my youngest brother Robert Stewart. And my dad, this would have been his 111th birthday. Let's see if I can get these flowers here. There they are. A lot of things are happening in Catholic Church that require a lot of prayers. We are of the opinion that all is not well in the Vatican, and that Francis I has said some things and done some things that are extraordinarily bad for the Church. I don't think they only border on heresy, but they actually are heretical, such as Amoris Laetitia that he talked about last year, and such cardinals as Cardinal Raymond Leo Burke and some other cardinals have asked for a clarification of Amoris Laetitia, and so on and so forth. And now he's flippantly saying that it might be okay for Catholic priests to be married, this, that, and the other. And he has a very low tolerance level for traditionalists such as myself, who love the Latin Tridentine Mass. You should know that the great Pope St. Pius V, Dominican, who inspired great crusade in Europe, in defense of Europe, from the Ottoman Turks, the Islamic forces that were threatening Europe. He inspired the great crusade that led to the successful naval battle of Lepanto in 1531. And this great Dominican Pope, very austere, promoted the rosary all over the world at the same time. And it was on October 7, 1531, that he got the news that, I believe it's 1531, that the battle had been won there. If it's not 1531, it's 1571, excuse me, but I belong to that group of people that is allowed to make those kind of mistakes. I'm not 45 years old anymore. I'm a little older. I'm not going to tell you how much older. Anyway, it was Pope St. Pius V who wrote the Quo Primum Bull, and he, in defense of the Latin Tridentine Mass, and he said in this bull, anyone who tampers with the words of the Latin Tridentine Mass, which has been fixed in perpetuity, will incur the wraths of Saints Peter and Paul. And that's what's happened. When Paul